Right now, tort reform is the buzz phrase at the state capitol. Find out what our Investigates team is finding out about that hot button issue. Also, the March Madness brackets are set, but they're also coming with an underlying warning about gambling addiction. We'll talk about that. And why is one of the best places to celebrate St. Patty's Day right here in Georgia? We'll let you know. This is The Take. Let's do it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite experts in to give us their take and expertise on today's hot topics. Plus, we try to have a little bit of fun as well. Now today, parts of Georgia continue to pick up the pieces from this weekend's round of deadly storms across the southeast. This is drone video that you're looking at right now from Paulding County showing just some of the damage and destruction out there. The National Weather Service confirmed an EF1 tornado touchdown in the county on Sunday, bringing winds up to about 110 miles per hour. Paulding County Sheriff Ashley Hansley said about 14 homes were severely damaged, and at one point, 30,000 residents were without power.
This is a tight-knit community, and this is something that hasn't happened in quite some time. We always prepare for the worst and hope it passes by us. Unfortunately, our card got called today, or last night rather, and we had a significant amount of damage.
Now, despite all that damage, the sheriff reported no injuries. Restoring power to some communities may take some time as the transmission line came down during the storm, which serves as a main source of power for that particular region. Let's take a look at our 7-day outlook. The rain is gone. Those thunderstorms are out of the way, folks. We cleared out yesterday, and we're going to stay that way for the next couple of days as high pressure builds in. It's cool today, so you need to grab your jacket. We're looking at winds out of the northwest up to about 17, 18 miles per hour, but the gusts will be in the 20 mile per hour range at times. And so you need to be on the aware of the cooler air that's going to be out there. We'll warm it up nicely as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, back into the 70s by then. Got another front that's going to come through on Thursday. We'll knock that temperature right back down to the 50s. We'll gradually warm it up a little bit as we head through the upcoming weekend, back to the 60s and eventually the 70s. Only a 30% chance for a stray shower or two on Thursday as that front passes through our forecast area. All right, let's now go under the Gold Dome. We've heard a lot of talk about tort reform during the current session of the Georgia legislature. Changes pushed by Governor Brian Kemp cleared the Senate and now are in the House. But does any of this impact you? That's what we're going to try to find out here. 11Alive News senior investigator Rebecca Lindstrom joins us now and says that it's all about rates, whether you're getting behind a wheel of a car or you're taking out a loan to buy a house. Rebecca, first of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It is good to be here.
All right. And can you describe for us, in your words, what tort reform means?
Yeah, because this is definitely a phrase that is getting used a lot right now, and it is just a clunky term. So I want to start with just saying, what is tort reform? I mean, tort reform, it is the changes to our legal process to reduce the number and the cost of civil lawsuits. That's it. That's what tort reform is. And a lot of states, they've passed some kind of tort reform. You might have heard of, what's happening in California or Texas and comparisons being made. But when you look at that definition, you have to understand that tort reform can mean a lot of different things, because again, it's choosing option A or choosing option B in order to reduce the number and the cost of those civil lawsuits. And because of that, even as we're talking about it, it's hard to make those apples to oranges, kind of comparisons and really boil down to what's happening in one state. Is that going to impact what's happening in ours?
So break down for us how our lawmakers are trying to get that tort reform here.
So the proposed bill would change a lot of different things, but here's some of the key elements, such as medical statements. Right now, attorneys can show what a treatment would have cost if the person injured had to pay full price. This bill would say, hey, if you're going to show that, then you need to show what they actually paid, which we know is often a lot less. It would also allow defense attorneys to tell jurors whether you were wearing a seatbelt when you got into an accident. Right now, that is not allowed. The idea there is that if you had worn your seatbelt, your injuries might not have been as severe, and their client shouldn't be responsible for your potentially bad decision. Another thing it would do is it would change who can sue a property owner for negligent security. Another kind of clunky phrase there, but an example of that might be trying to sue the owners of a gas station because you got robbed while pumping gas. You could say, you knew this was a high crime area. Why didn't you have more security there so that I didn't get robbed? you know, because you had security guards to prevent that.
Gotcha. Okay, so how does this, what does this have to do with my insurance premiums?
I mean, because that's really the bottom line we all want to know. Like, if we go ahead and we do all of this, what are we going to get in exchange? So the discussion, the thought here is that the more high dollar lawsuits insurance companies face, the more that they have to pay out, and then the more we have to pay for insurance. So if we reduce all of that, our insurance rates, well, they should go down too, right?
Well, our research finds that no, rates never come down when you pass these kinds of laws. The money is going to go into the pockets of the insurance company.
Well, that if only 2 years ago Florida passed its tort reform legislation, that now we're seeing all of this dramatic improvement in this market, which, you know, mind you, Florida is surrounded almost entirely by water. They have a very interesting and costly, you know, insurance market, and they're seeing these results where premiums are coming down.
All right, so we heard the high dollar verdicts mentioned. Do you know how many we've had here in Georgia?
Yeah, so when they're talking about the high dollar verdicts, they like to use this phrase, nuclear verdicts. And according to the report by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, from 2013 to 2022, Georgia had 64 nuclear verdicts. So 64 times where a jury awarded, said, yeah, they deserve this money, and then awarded a settlement or a jury award that was more than $10 million. And that makes us tied with Illinois for the 5th highest number of cases with jury awards over $10 million. Many of those verdicts, though, do get reduced upon appeal.
Yeah, I think a lot of us would like to see our insurance rates go down. So for the critics, what do they need to do when it comes to this tort reform?
They say more accountability. I mean, you heard the one gentleman there talking about what was happening in Florida and actually seeing those rates come down. There are people who would say, well, maybe they're seeing this short-term benefit, but if you're going to look at it over a period of time, you're going to find that it was more of a wash and that they end up in very similar place as other states that didn't pass some of these tort reform measures. So they say what would really make a difference is accountability. The state, Georgia's own study showed that more people are turning to lawyers when they get injured, and that when they do, they tend to get paid more. So are personal injury lawyers bullying the system, or are insurers forcing people down that path because they're not honoring the policies? And I think that's one of the other big questions here that's not really being asked.
All right, Rebecca Lindstrom, thank you for that insight. Very good information, really appreciate it. All right, don't go anywhere, folks. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. The White House says it's full steam ahead with its economic policies, new import taxes on foreign goods, and continued slashing of federal agencies and workers. All this despite the polls and the stock market showing those moves to be unpopular. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who's been covering politics for years now. And Alice, let me get your take on that NBC poll that came out this weekend. What are you seeing in those numbers?
Yeah, so a lot of new data here. First of all, President Trump's approval ratings overall are just about 47%, right under the 50% mark. But it's actually the highest that he has had, his approval ratings, a good deal higher than they were at the same time into his first term. And that's because of this united Republican support that's, strong and broad, wanting to move ahead with his agenda. Breaking down the numbers a little bit more, he is underwater in terms of his performance on the economy, with 54% of those American voters surveyed saying that they disapprove of his handling in these early days of the economy, and that's amid all of the tariffs and the trade wars and the price fluctuation, stock market volatility that we've seen. He gets higher marks substantially on immigration and border security, with 55% of voters surveyed approving of his handling there. And then while they're broadly open to government efficiency, the idea of that, about 2/3 of those surveyed say Elon Musk and his team need to slow down or stop what they're doing to prevent damage. And I also thought it was interesting that looking ahead to next year's midterm elections, those surveyed are almost evenly divided over which party they think should control Congress.
That would be an interesting conversation. You mentioned the stock market being rattled. How is the White House defending all these shakeups?
Yeah, so we heard from the Treasury Secretary over the weekend, who is saying that he believes the volatility that we've seen on the stock market is a sign of investors, of companies, of everyone kind of adjusting to these radically different policies, particularly the trade policies that President Trump has put into effect. But he said it's not a sign of a coming recession. And while he wouldn't guarantee that there won't be a recession, he said, for instance, no one would have predicted COVID. He thinks that this is kind of short-term discomfort that we're seeing. And he said that things were not sustainable on the path that we were on before, particularly with spending as it stood, and said that we are resetting and putting things on a sustainable path.
Gotcha. All right, shift gears a little bit here with me. The administration is now locked in a fight, seemingly, with a federal judge over mass deportations. What's behind that?
Yeah, so this is specifically about the deportations of roughly 300 immigrants the White House alleges are Venezuelan gang members. And over the weekend, they were sent back to a prison in El Salvador. So not back to Venezuela, but to a prison in El Salvador. The president claimed authority under the Alien Enemies Act, which is rarely used and only used in times of war. It dates back to the late 1700s. A federal judge quickly blocked the move and ordered the deportation flights back to the U.S., but that didn't happen. The White House is adamant it did not defy a court order. The administration has appealed the judge's ruling and is arguing that the ruling was issued after the planes had already left U.S. territory and that's why they were not in violation, according to how they're framing it.
Gotcha. Thank you for your insight, Alice. I see you dressed in your green there. Happy St. Patty's Day to you.
Have to. Yeah. No pinching.
Yeah, well,
you too.
I get pinched. I don't have any green on today. Can't wear that in the green screen, you know. Take care, Alice.
That's true. That is a rule.
Take care. All right, here's a live look right now in Chicago, where you can see the Chicago River is colored in green in honor of St. Patrick's Day. Always does that. Looks murky, doesn't it? But, you know, it's all good. It's all good for St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, if you can't be in Ireland today for all the fun, there's plenty of places in the United States where you can be. There's a lot of wearing green today, and one closer than you think. Yep, a recent Wallet Hub put the best cities for celebrating St. Patrick's Day out. While it makes sense that the Irish-rich Boston would be at the top of the list, Savannah, Georgia is in third. Why is that? Well, here to explain why is the mayor of the city, Van Johnson II, the city of Savannah, and decked out as well. You look lucky, my friend. You look lucky. Welcome to the show.
We are welcome from the Irish capital of the United States, Savannah, Georgia. We have the second largest St. Patrick's Day parade in the nation. New York is first, Savannah is second, Chicago is third, and Boston is fourth. So we do it big in the South.
What is it about Savannah that makes y'all the second, or makes you the largest, or makes you want to throw on this green?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, we have a very vibrant Irish population. Many of them came directly from Ireland to Savannah during the potato famine, from places like Wexford, places like Limerick, and they have settled their families here. The second reason is because of all the cities mentioned, we're the warmest. So we'll be about 65 degrees today. After a rough weather day over yesterday, it's going to be great weather. And in Savannah, you know, you can walk with your drink. So it makes the festivities a little easier.
That makes it important right there. That's really important right there. How do you guys celebrate? How do you do it? Is it just a parade, or is there much more going on?
It's been a weekend of activities. We have folks from Ireland that are here. We have members of the Irish government that are here. We had a mass yesterday that celebrated the military influences and faith influences. Right now, I'm in St. John's Basilica here in downtown Savannah. Mass is going on upstairs, and we're finishing the religious portions of that. The parade starts at 10:15, and then we'll keep it on all night long. Then tomorrow we'll be right back at life as usual.
Wow. How many, you mentioned people coming in from out of town. How many folks are you expecting to host this time of year?
Well, from Friday to today, it'll be easily over 500,000 people coming into a city that, for us, we know we boast 17 million visitors a year. But again, it's a great opportunity for us to show our Irish side.
Yeah.
We love celebrations. We are a great destination for people to come and visit. And we have a lot of buses from the Atlanta area that are here, and they're enjoying themselves as well. And we're going to get them back to you safely.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Make sure they come back safely. You know, one of the traditions is the greening of the fountain at Forsyth Park. Tell us about that.
Last Friday, we set in Forsyth Park, we dye the fountain. It started off years ago as a prank, and so now we just do it. And so all of our fountains throughout our squares, we have 22 of them, are green. We don't want to do the whole river. We'll do the fountain, and it certainly gives a good Irish feel to our community. And again, people like to come here, they like to enjoy it. It's great for locals here. They enjoy it. We have a huge parade that goes on for over 3 hours. And so we're looking forward to having them. We have Senator Warnock is here with me today. So it's going to be a great day.
Sounds like fun. Are you already planning for next year's celebration? Will it start after this celebration over? Will you already start for next year?
It starts tonight, actually.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
This is our 201st St. Patrick's Day Parade, 201st. So we'll be planning for the 202nd right after we get finished tonight.
Wow. Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. Mr. Mayor, enjoy yourself. You look great, by the way. If it wasn't St. Patrick's Day, I think you were a Boston Celtics fan.
Well, I'm not. I'm a Knicks fan. But next year, why don't y'all come in? Y'all can just broadcast live from Savannah. I guarantee you'll enjoy it.
Sounds like fun. I'll put that on the calendar and make sure my boss approves it, man. Thank you so much, Mayor. We'll see you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Some other facts about St. Paddy's Day. While he wasn't a patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick was actually born in Britain. He was later kidnapped and taken to Ireland. St. Patrick actually wore blue, not green. Actually, at the time, green was considered to be an unlucky color. As time progressed, green became the national color, so that's why people wear green now in order not to get pinched. And traditionally, St. Patrick's Day Parade is actually an American tradition. You may have heard the mayor mention this. The first recorded St. Patrick's Day Parade took place not in Ireland, but in New York City back in 1762. Wow, look at that. See, we'll give it to Americans, man. We'll change it up, switch it up, make it our own. You know how we do it. Savannah. Wow. Okay. Plenty more show for you coming up after the break. All right, let the March Madness begin. Yep, we now know the 68 teams invited to the big dance, and they all have one goal in mind. They want to be the one team hoisting that national championship trophy on Monday, April 7th. But for many of us, we want to look at our brackets and find out whether or not we won, right? The American Gaming Association is estimating that roughly $3.1 billion will be legally wagered on this year's March Madness tournament. That's up from the $2.72 billion put down on the brackets last year. Again, that's legal betting. It's hard to pin down the illegal betting that will be taking place, but one estimate says around $4.3 billion. All that's with a B, folks. Here now to talk more about it is Monique Garside, psychotherapist based out of Stone Mountain. Monique, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. What's your initial thought or take on these figures?
Yeah, that is a lot of money. And so you think about how exciting it is. But at the same time, we think about how are we doing this responsibly, and what does that look like? And as exciting as it is, we want to make sure we don't cross that line of not being able to adjust when we're too excited.
How strong would you say gambling addiction really is?
I think it's very strong. I think we're just now learning more about it. Gambling addiction, you have some of the same things you would look at if someone who has an alcohol or a drug addiction. It's that chasing that high. It's the same thing, but it looks different. So you can't see a gambling addiction from a person, right? So we look at some of the same things, but it is very high. Those numbers are increasing, and so more awareness is being raised around it.
You mentioned alcohol and drug addiction. When we think about addictions, that's probably the first thing we think about. But how does gambling rate to that?
Yeah, so gambling addiction is the thing about it that's so dangerous for gambling addiction is because, one, we sometimes don't take it serious. We don't think that it's a thing. And so then we don't take the proper measures, or maybe we don't support an individual who is struggling with an addiction. And so getting the resources to them or getting the help to them is really important. And so as we're still learning more about it, we have to understand we have to tackle it just the same type of resources that we would pour into a substance or drug addiction is the same type that we would do for gambling addictions.
Monique, I can't say I've never wagered anything with a friend or something like that. You may be sitting at a bar watching a game or something like that, and you say, hey, man, I bet you the Sixers are going to win tonight, and it's maybe $1 bet, that kind of thing. What are the signs that someone may be going a bit too far with it?
Yeah, so you look at someone who has maybe loss of impulse control, someone who is willing to, they are they don't care about the risk anymore. They're going to continue to bet, and they're going to get into issues such as like financial trouble. Someone, maybe they are so hyper focused on it, they have these compulsions that they may not be looking at things in a clearer way. So their judgment is going to be off a little bit, and they're going to be willing to risk things like their family, their job, their finances. So someone who doesn't really have control over that behavior.
So what's the best way to deal with it?
So one of the things is to get support. So you can get support in multiple ways, whether it's being honest with your family and your friends, maybe having someone for accountability, having an accountability partner, setting your limits. So, what's that limit from going to a friendly wager to now we are stepping outside of something that we can control? Looking at creating boundaries. So maybe you say, you give yourself a limit of how much you do it. You look at that. And then maybe just looking at when you feel like you might be getting a little bit out of control, and maybe when you feel like you can't control it, then seeking help. So whether you go to friends and family, whether you go to a therapist, but knowing when it's time for you to go and get help.
When you say set a limit, well, I mean, and nobody knows really how much somebody's making or what they can bring in or whatever, but,
right.
And I've never, I'm $1. You know what I mean? That's about all
right. But even time-wise, so if you're saying, okay, I'm going to give myself, 5 minutes, whether you're using an app or whether you're somewhere in a space, right? Giving yourself some time, say, okay, you know what, win or lose, I'm going to walk away. And being able to say that. It's when we have trouble saying it's time to walk away is when we get a little bit across that line.
Gotcha. All right. So I have to ask you, did you fill out your bracket?
I have not put on my bracket yet, but we are a Duke household, so it's going to be on our bracket.
Okay, all right. And what's your limit about? You $5, $10. What's your limit?
I give it a couple times. My limit is real low. My limit is very low.
Okay, so
I don't like to lose, and so I'm just like, all right, I didn't win that round. That's it. I'm done.
All right. Just one last question. Who you got winning it all? Who do you see hoisting the trophy? Do you have a favorite, or you just
so we're biased. We're Duke house here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we are, we're watching, we're hoping, crossing our fingers.
All right. Monique, really appreciate your insight. Thank you for all that information about gambling. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Don't go anywhere, folks. She says she's a Duke house. So if you're going to follow Monique, there you go. We'll be back with my final take right after this. All right, welcome back, folks. We're looking at 59 degrees for a high temperature today. We'll be on the cool side. Grab that jacket before you leave the house. Despite the fact that we'll have all that sunshine around, it's going to be on the cool side. We rebound quickly. By Tuesday, Wednesday, temperatures will be back into the 70s. Cold front comes through, knock those temperatures right back down to the 50s on Thursday with a 30% chance for an isolated shower or two. Then back warming up as we head into the upcoming weekend. All right, before we go, my final take. Shout out to Ben Affleck for giving his son a reality check. While at a sneaker convention, his son wanted a pair of $6,000 sneakers. That's right, $6,000 for a pair of sneakers. Ben shared with his 13-year-old son, that's a lot of lawns that you're going to have to cut. His son proceeded to say, "We have the money, Dad." Ben followed that up with saying, "No, I have the money, you're broke." Gotta love that. Parents that fight against their children growing up to be entitled or spoiled. Other celebrities who share that same sentiment will be Shaquille O'Neal. You got Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Tucker, Warren Buffett. I'm not trying to tell you how to raise your kids, folks, but helping them to appreciate what they're given will help them out in the long run in life. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. $6,000 for a pair of sneakers that he's gonna grow out of in probably a month or a couple of months. Thanks for joining us today, folks. As we say goodbye, here's your moment of Zen.